investment. So investor readiness.
Right.
After we introduce the AfTA, what it is, the benefits to Ghana, the objectives of the whole process, where we are at this point in the process, how many countries make up the AfTA, the implication for my good friend Kofi Mensah sitting in Mataheko this afternoon listening to us, and his business he runs as a car tire business, providing quality car tires for many vehicles on our roads. How does the AfTA benefit him? Or for my friend Francisca, who's listening to us this afternoon, who's selling women clothing, how does the AfTA benefit her? And then you shared some thoughts with us. Today we're going to be looking at export readiness.
Right.
And I like to think that we're not going to be only be talking about export in the traditional sense of the word export, but seeing as we're going to have an international market now, you're going to be exporting your expertise, your skill, your product, your service, even you yourself. How are you going to play in that space? And we're going to look at export readiness. Talk to us about export readiness
Right.
under the umbrella of the conversation, Africa Free Trade Continental Area.
Right. So, good afternoon once again. If you have been following our class, we are doing all we can to make sure that every business, particularly the MSMEs, appreciate how they can prepare themselves towards the opportunities the Continental Free Trade Area brings. And we've done so much. Last week, in particular, we looked at the opportunities that can come with new funding or even credit being made available to businesses that are ready and right. And we talked about some of the things you need to do so that you can cash in on that opportunity. We talked about foreign direct investment that can come because there is something we call the rule of origin that gives an advantage to anybody, any business that is manufacturing or producing the product or service in the agreement from an African country. And we said Ghana was well placed to attract that kind of funding. So we talked about how any business can position itself the right way to become a target for these funds. Now today, if you have been listening to us carefully, you notice that AfTA is everything export. And like you said, it's not just export of goods. It could be export of services. And service could mean anything. Now, the question we want to treat today is how ready are you? Assuming even you are given the opportunity to tap into the markets across the entire continent. How ready is your business? How ready are you? And all these things are done so that you don't just wait for anybody to put you in a place of disadvantage. You yourself can begin recounting and getting yourself ready to take advantage of the market yourself. And so as we recount some of the things we are learning, it is for you to activate them and begin to put them in place. I said that the Continental Free Trade Area platform is still going through a number of fine-tuning. And so by the time we are all set and ready, you should also be ready to cash in. And today we want to treat in detail export readiness. How ready are you to take advantage of you putting your goods or services beyond even Ghana so that it becomes important? Thankfully, we are going to be sharing some slides so you can follow us on the slides and we go through together. Now, there are two parts if you want to take advantage of this Continental Free Trade Area in terms of export. And
Richmond, just before you go on, let me just remind our listeners very quickly that we're also streaming live on our Facebook page. If you go to our Facebook page, My Joy Online, the slides will be shared there, and so you're able to better appreciate the conversation. So if you have access, by all means, do go to our Facebook page, and you can watch us live as well, and also watch the slides and follow the conversation. Richmond.
Right, so the first part we want to look at is a foundational readiness for your exports. And if you look at our slide 1, it talks about your export readiness being dependent on hinging on the efforts you put in to make it successful. And the first part is your export strategy. So you, the business, you must have an export strategy, and it is that export strategy that drives your ability to cash in on the 1.2 or 3 billion market you have now. Then the second part is about, even before you put in the strategy, there are some things you have to check by yourself, in-house, internally, to even just see if you are even ready to take advantage of the market or not. Because the fact that we are saying export readiness is a great thing to do doesn't mean every business is supposed to take advantage of same. If, for example, we go through the checklist, which is the second part, and you notice that you are not export ready, then the things that you have to do to even still leverage on the current market you are in, you can do and not be worried about the market that is out there. So the first part is a strategy, and the second part is a checklist for your export preparedness. Today we want to look at the checklist first, so that those who notice that after going to the checklist there's a lot of internal correction they have to do, you do it before we now put you into putting together the strategy. So the next slide is talking about the basic export readiness requirements, and check this carefully if you are listening. If you can even write, put it down. If you can record, do it, because it is important for you, particularly the MSME. So it's like a precursor. Number one, you should just try and evaluate your capacity and resources available to start exporting. Exporting is a big deal. It doesn't come at no cost. It comes at a big cost. Whether, look at, let me give a practical example. Let's say there's a bank or there's a company that sees there's a need. It's in Accra now, that sees there's a need in Tamale. It is not easy to just even move from Accra to Tamale to establish a branch and make everything work just the same way they work in Accra, even internally. Yep. It is a lot of work, it's a lot of diligence, a lot of commitment. So now to even move beyond this local level and now to place a good or a service, the same company, the same brand, the same feel, the same look, beyond Ghana to other countries, that should tell you that that also needs some commitment. So the question is that, do you have the capacity and do you have the resources? Assuming this afternoon we called you and said you can put in your goods on a platform and we want to sell it for a demand that is ready for that good you are selling. Mm-hmm. Do you have the capacity to do that? Do you have the resources? And what does that mean? Number one is a product. Do you have the product? Many people say, oh, I sold this, or I sell this, or I produce this. But if right now I was training some people together with the UK Aid and ITC in the north, and they were shea butter people, MSMEs. One person who was participating in the class said they produce, I think, black oils and then shea butter cream. So I asked them that, assuming I needed 48 pieces right now to buy before I leave the session, will you be able to produce? He said, oh, I have only 2. You see, so the point here is that, is a product here? Do you have the ability, plant capacity to even produce a quantity? Do you have the understanding of the value chain, what is required to produce that for the market? And do you have the finances? If we said we were moving from maybe your 2 to say 10 now, and you are going to replicate it over a week, do you have the finances now? Have you saved enough to be able to do at least the first tranche so that you can get in buying and purchases that will bring in money to do the next? So just check. Don't be in a hurry to say, okay, we hear after is going to be good, so I want to take advantage of it. Do you have the capacity and the resource? Just check. You should be able to tell. Number 2, do you understand the requirements even locally in Ghana, dealing with, say, the Ghana Export Promotion Authority and the rest? Have you dealt with them? Have you been given an idea as to what you need to do even before, after, to put your good beyond Ghana? Do you know what it takes? Have you gone through that rubrics? Have you experienced it? And are you comfortable with it? If you don't have that, this is the time to do all these checks so that you can be properly ready. And here, when I say the meeting of the local requirements, I'm talking about compliance, for example, with just even Ghana's export acts, the shipping and the custom services, even the packaging, the product pricing. Have you done anything like that? If you've never done export before, but it's almost like it just occurred to you now that you've heard something called AfCFTA, and all of a sudden you want to export to some other country. It is okay. It's a good inspiration. It's okay. It's a good vision to have. But try and check your understanding and meeting of even the local requirements in terms of exports and services available, and check your capacity and resources in terms of plant capacity, the value chain, the skill sets, and the finances available. The third thing under the basic export readiness checklist is, do you even understand the targeted international market? So do you understand what it means to put a product that sells in Accra in another way that will still appeal to the people in, say, Ethiopia, in another way that will appeal to the people in, say, Mozambique, in another way that will appeal to the people in, say, Rwanda? Have you done that to be able to say that I understand the targeted international market itself? Because even locally in Ghana, if you want to sell Wache, for example, in Accra, I can bet that the way it is presented in Accra would be very different from the way it is presented maybe in Kumasi, or even the way it is presented in Wa.
Exactly.
In Accra, the packaging may have to change. You may probably have to do a lot of work in terms of the branding and the looks and the things before somebody will buy the wache. In Kumasi, it may not. In Kumasi, probably they want it in a certain way. So the point is that beyond that local example, if you are putting it out there, then there is a way you must put it out there in terms of an understanding of what the market requires, in terms of whatever you are going to be producing. And they include trade policies. They include compliance with standards. They include regulations and requirements. And there are some things we call the import restrictions. These are basic. They are things you must now begin to pick answers for, particularly if your answer to my question is no, all the questions I'm asking. And then the last one under the basic export readiness is buyer requirements. The people who are placing a demand on that good or service, what is their product specification? What is their standard? What is their payment and trading system? In some places, people can only buy on credit. In some places, people would like to buy with cash. In some places, people want to use a digital platform. How do you understand this buyer requirement so that you are able to say that, yes, I'm ready to move and take advantage of this export opening that I have on the AfCFTA platform? So these are basic export readiness requirements, like the basic for nothing at all. And I'm going to break it down for you very well in 4 ways. I'm breaking it down in terms of products and services. I'm breaking it down in terms of your firm, your organization, your institution, and then I'm breaking it down in terms of competitiveness, and then from there I'll end on regulatory. So I've shared the basic things you need to check to be sure I am ready to export, and I'm going to now break them down in order of these 4 specific strategic pillars. Now, so for the product or the service you are selling or producing, for you to check if you are export ready with that product, my question is this: is that product already available? You should just say a yes or no. Already available means that it is something that even if you can't provide now according to demand, it takes not very long to quickly turn around and bring. Number 2, is that product or service currently selling even in your domestic market? The product, probably because of some feedback or because of some bad outcome of the product you are delivering or the service you are delivering, even locally, there is no demand for same. So shouldn't you leverage on why the product is not being bought or being sold in a certain way in this local market, so that you don't repeat same outside? Because taking it outside will require a different cost. Look at all the basic requirements I shared. They come with a lot of spending, and so you should be sure that your product even has a current domestic market demand and is selling. The next one under product, the third, is do you have the surplus production capacity or even people who can help you meet the demand, assuming the service is required? So is there a way where if we have to produce in excess, now, a certain demand, maybe all this while you have been producing maybe 1 ton or 3, now if it jumps to 10, will you be able to do that? And then finally, do you have the financing required to adapt to your product or your target market in order to promote it? So under product or service readiness, your answer to these questions is important. Then we come to your organization itself. How export ready is the organization? And here we say, is leadership committed to sustaining your export effort? Here it can be for someone who is leading an MSME, not being an owner, or someone who is leading as an owner. So if you are not the owner, you should be able to check the mindset of the board, the management team, the leadership team, and how ready they are to commit themselves to the requirements and the difficult things you have to go through in terms of resource, in terms of restructuring and things to be able to put a good out there. Is the leadership committed to getting this done? Now, does your organization have a good track record of meeting deadlines? My brother, as I speak now, when you say you are sewing a dress or something for maybe a couple who want to have their wedding on Saturday, they bring it to you 2 weeks. Usually, it is on the 9th of the next morning when the wedding is that you call to say, oh, I have a problem, I have a breakdown. Do you get a lot of feedback saying that you are not faithful with your timelines, or you are not professional with your timelines? That whatever you promise that I'm delivering on this time, you have almost an excuse all the time because of a genuine capacity challenge or maybe a genuine technical challenge. You cannot take that same problem or that same gap to the export market if you want to leverage on your export.
And let me just chip this in. I think that as a country, we have allowed this perception. I call it perception. I hope that's all that it is. That where it comes to us receiving visitors, we are extremely hospitable. But where it comes to us being on time, we're extremely not on time.
Right.
And so we say, is it the Ghanaian time? So when you tell somebody 12 o'clock, you say, is it Ghanaian time 12 o'clock or is 12 o'clock? So sometimes you ask someone, when is the meeting? Say, it's 3:34.
Right.
I mean, what's that?
You can't take this.
So let's work ourselves to the place of, I won't say perfection, but a place of good appreciation where we are on time with our services. When we say 3, let it be 3. You give somebody an appointment for 4 o'clock, they are not there 5 minutes after 4 o'clock. Let them understand that we have to be conscious,
right,
because it's part of our packaging with which we're going into the AfCFTA. I just thought I'd chip that in very quickly.
And it's so important to understand this. Why? Because the moment you move from your local market to an international market, a number of things change in terms of time. Some countries are 3 hours ahead, some are 2, some are 3, some are 4, some are 5.
Zone difference.
And you still have to go through exporting requirements that may take a day or 2. So if a customer wants a good or a service in, say, 3 days, and you are exporting to that customer, you notice that it is not like maybe a local treat where you can just dash and make it happen on the same day. But here you have to take time to regularize and do a number of things. The days it will take to even put the goods through, and then their timelines or their duration. So maybe in South Africa, for example, now it's like 2 hours ahead of us. In Tanzania, I think it's about 3 hours ahead. So you cannot miss out on your timelines if you want to take part of this intra-African trade on a global platform. If you don't meet your deadlines and your timelines, they are not ready then in terms of how ready the institution is. The next one is, does staff even have the right expertise in export markets? You cannot take the same staff abilities and capabilities that has still faltered even locally into the market and the platform that is continental or that is international. So by now, you should not be the only one who appreciate what is happening and after. You should be bringing everybody to speed that we have to change the way we do the things we do because we are getting into another terrain, so that everybody's on top of why things are changing internally, and you have to bring your staff to speed. And this is for everyone, for a service provider or a goods or anything like that. It doesn't have to be just somebody who manufactures hard stuff. The next one is, has the organization undertaken any foreign market research on the target market? By now, if you want to take advantage of this intra-African trade, just do basic research as to what really each of these countries, what they do in terms of what they are producing. If you don't, you'll be surprised that there is another producer or another service provider in that country who is doing wilder than you are doing. And so if you are looking at going to that market, you should be able to provide something more better, something very strategic, something higher in terms of quality. And I'll come to competitiveness and you understand. And so you should have an idea as to, am I going to East Africa? Am I going to Central Africa? Am I going to Southern Africa? What is their taste like? What is their appeal like? What is their demand like? What is the customer mindset there like? Do they take excuses like maybe a Ghanaian would take, okay, you say it's not ready, that's fine, when will it be ready? And probably you don't lose anything. In another market, if you miss out, you probably don't get money and you can even be sued for doing so.
There are penalties on late payments and all of that.
So you have to understand all that so that you are able to know how to even relate in that market. This is institutional readiness. A word to the wise. We move to competitiveness. The moment you want to leverage on AfCFTA, then you have opened yourself to competition. And this is one of the important things, last but one item we are treating for export readiness that you must take note of. Does your product or service has a distinct competitive advantage? And I'm going to explain it. In terms of quality, 1. In terms of price, 2. In terms of how unique it is, how innovative it is. Do you think you are ahead comparatively, taking it to that market, particularly after checking if there's some sort of similar service or product in that market? You should be able to give an answer to that so that you know whether you are up or below the benchmarks in that country comparatively. Have you adapted your packaging? Clearly, I deliberately spelled it out. Your packaging, your labeling, your promotional materials for your target market. If you are interested, you should be getting to working on these. Your labeling. Look, in Ghana, you can just put English there, nobody may even read. In another country, in addition to English, you may have to put it in Afrikaans or Swahili or something else. And so have you start thinking about that? I want to take it there and I want to keep this same English or this same Ga or this same tree there. It won't go any far. So you should check your labeling, you should check your packaging, you should check your promotional materials because you want to take advantage of that market. Then do you have the capacity and resources to provide after sales support and service in your market target? Many people are interested in selling. After selling, that's it. You deal with your own problems the service or good comes with.
Buyer beware.
That's it. So they invite you to treat, invitation to treat, you buy the thing, that's it, you struggle, you don't find them again. The same pace they responded to their phone when they were selling to you, the calls, is not the same. Now when you call them, they don't even pick. There's nobody to attend to you after sales. But you can't leverage competitively if you are not there to even serve after selling. Another person will take that advantage in there in that market and you will not be found anywhere. Then the next one is what we call the free on board. It's an international trade law term, and that talks about whether either the supplier or the demand, the person who is buying is the one who takes on the ensuing cost. So I'm going to explain it later in the strategy session. But do you have cost, insurance, freight, and a price list that now relates competitively to pricing of that good? After you have added all your export costs and things, does it still compete with the pricing in that industry? So maybe if I produce this item, currently it is costing me $1. See this equivalent. But now that I'm going to be exporting, even though the economies of scale that I'll produce more and the cost may go down, still there is some cost in terms of a number of things
Additional
you do.
cost.
Good.
Yes.
And that cost does not excuse you from the competitive pricing in that market. So you can't say that, oh, mine is $2 in Tanzania because I brought it from Ghana. Nobody will listen to you. If there is another solution or product there that is $1, they will take it.
Yes.
So you have to be sure about that competitiveness. Then the next one is your promotional material available in the language of your target market? I've talked about
That's
that. Your
what you
business
spoke about,
cards, your
yes.
brochures, your website even. Your website, by now, you should be knowing the kind of languages your website. When I come there now, even before you start trading, I should have another alternative. Africa is basically Spanish, English, French, and maybe one or two more local languages that are strong, like Hausa or maybe Swahili. You should begin to be fine-tuning your website that anybody can pick on and begin to do anything on from now. And then, have you started marketing your product or service in that target market? Have you engaged the services of a sales representative, agent, or broker in that market? Have you hired a freight forwarder or customs broker or any of those things that can help you? So under competitiveness, these are some of the things you have to appreciate so you can be export ready. And the last pillar in your checklist for export readiness is regulatory compliance. It's a big headache for many MSMEs in Ghana. But look at this and then see how prepared you are. To what extent does your product or service comply with legal requirements in the target market? For example, if it's food, if it's drug, the Food and Drugs Board in Ghana or the Drugs Authority in Ghana is held in high esteem globally. And so when they certify anything for you, it is almost like it's good to go. If you are struggling with them today to get that certification for that good or service, I can bet you that you probably struggle when you take it out of Ghana. And so whatever it takes, begin pushing yourself a little bit more. And that is why I'm going to be urging the authority, the regulatory authority, that they should become innovative with this after and make things a little bit easier and quicker. The same way in crisis, when the corona came, they were able to improve turnaround time. This is the time they have to be proactive and support MSMEs to regularize and do things that will make them competitive enough to sell in terms of regulation. So just as we are asking them to also pick up their game, I think the regulatory authority should also do same for them.
And the AfTA Secretariat is going to be in Ghana as well.
Right.
So obviously that's a big advantage.
It is.
I mean, if you're able to clear the hurdle with
FDA.
And GSA,
right,
clearly then it makes it easy because then you go straight to the Secretariat and it should be easy. It's like you get exemptions for a course if you've done the professional.
And it's good. It's good because even now, the GSA and FDA can even relate with after now, the Secretariat now, and be able to look at the protocols on the agreement, the free trade agreement program and the platform, and be able to pick up some of the protocols and quickly infuse
Exactly.
if it's missing out, so
Exactly.
that they don't go through this regulation. And when they put it on the AfCFTA platform, there are other things that are also raised. So proactivity in terms of our strategy for the MSMEs would help. Then, in addition to legal requirements, your buyer may ask for additional standards and codes of conduct. This is the Continental Free Trade Area side. And then, have you engaged the service of a sales representative? I think we've done that. Are you aware of your buyer standard? We've also done that. So, in conclusion for today, for your checklist, we have the general one, which is the basic export readiness requirement. Then we've broken it into 4: product or service readiness, institutional readiness, competitive readiness, and regulatory and compliance readiness. If you can get back checking yourself on these, and you are good to go, then you are ready for next week when we talk about how to put together an export strategy.
Tips on how to be export ready for the aftermarket. We want to take a quick message from our sponsor. When we come back, we get interactive, and numbers to call will be 0302-216-541. Otherwise, you can also send us your comment on 055-111-11997. Just to also remind us that the show today is brought to us by Goyle. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia, and it's also brought to us by First Code Management Services. Industry, get it right. Let's take a quick message from our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Your favorite on-air business development program, Joy Business Masterclass, is in session, and you can interact with us on Facebook via the Joy 99.7 FM or Joy Business pages. If you tweet, the handle is at Joy 997 FM or at Joy Business GH. Don't forget to hashtag JB Masterclass. You can also call us on 0302 216541 or send your questions and contributions through to the WhatsApp number 0551 111997, and our facilitators will address your concerns. Attention everyone, class is in progress.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in, this is Masterclass. Goyle's GH Link card. Going cashless has never been this convenient and exciting. Goyle's e-payment systems are now compatible with the GH Link and the National Payment Platform. Now you can use your GH Link card on Goyle's POS machines to purchase fuel. GH Link card offers additional payment options for fuel purchases at Goyle stations in addition to the Go card. Every fuel purchased is recorded automatically on your monthly bank statements, helping cardholders track and manage their expenses. So go ahead and use your GH Link card to buy fuel and all lubricants from Goyle's over 400 stations across Ghana. Go cashless and protect yourself, and stick to all the COVID-19 protocols in these times. Goyle, they say good energy. Goyle, Yenara, Yedia. First Code Management Services. In these moments of increasing uncertainties, firms are compelled to seek tailor-made solutions to reduce risk and grow their businesses. For startup investors, SMEs, and business owners, First Code Management Services provide advisory and facilitation support for company formation and business setup, for corporate secretarial and business compliance, for accounting, for research and market entry, and for training and capacity building. First Code Management Services are your first point of call for management support services. Talk to us today or call us on 0302 2972 263 or 0302 2972 264. Locate us at 60A Westlands Boulevard, West Legon, or visit us at www.firstcodelimited.com. Industry, get it right. So we're open now. Phone lines are now open. Numbers to call 0302 216 541. That's 0302 216 541. Or you can also send us your WhatsApp on 055 1111 997. You can also drop us your comments on Facebook, and our tech team will make sure that we get your questions. Let's have a conversation. First of all, how are you celebrating Ghana Month? Would like to hear that. And then how is all of this conversation on AfCFTA going to affect your business? How are you positioning yourself? While waiting for the phone lines to ring, Richmond, let me ask you, is there any business or anyone who can say, I'm not going to be affected by AfCFTA. I'm not interested in going on the big market? Because the conversation on the big market, even though indirectly, will speak to things like improved quality and all of that, it also speaks directly to quantity in terms of size of market and all of that. Some people say, my product is not for everybody. I know eating places in parts of this country where they start at 9 and close at 11, and they're done. And they're like, my product is not for everybody. What would you say to a business person who says, I'm not too sure that this whole AfCFTA thing is for me?
Well, that would be a disastrous conclusion to have. Why? Because it is not even about access to a new market. It's about crowding out your existing demand side. So what it means is that maybe before you were the only person producing this kind of good or service in this side of town. AfCFTA is making it possible for another of the same kind from another country to come into your space and give your supposed customers.
So it's not about you going out alone. It's about you surviving, because if you don't innovate, you'll die.
If you don't, somebody else is coming for it.
Exactly. I've got a caller on the line. Good afternoon. You're welcome to Masterclass. Your name and where you're calling from.
Good afternoon. This is Ibrahim Mustafa, a public speaking coach. And
good afternoon, Ibrahim. You're welcome to Masterclass.
Welcome. This is the insights you shared today are very insightful. And I think if any business person, minded person is listening, it will help them a lot, because that is just like free consultancy. So there are things I also want to maybe just point out that he mentioned that our businessmen But if you have additional proof in terms of social media, when I come to your social media page and I see like 1,000 or even 10,000 people on your social media, it's like a kind of social proof that people can easily buy, because people are scared these days to even do transactions. But once you have the social proof, and you can leverage on that even to build on. So I think those are the things that I just have to add on.
Very wonderful. Ibrahim, please stay on the line for me. As we celebrate Ghana Month here at Multimedia, as a Ghanaian, what one thing about our Ghanaianness resonates so strongly with you? Very quickly. Maybe in all of your life you bake bread, beautiful bread. I mean, your bread is popular all over the country. That's some very famous brands. I don't want to mention names, but all you've done is produce 100 pieces or 200 pieces. If someone came to you and said, "I need 1,000 pieces, for 4 days," so that's 4,000 pieces. What's going to happen? Is it going to break your bank? How are you going to do this? Pick up that phone, give us a call. Let's begin to ask questions, because when you ask questions, then you get answers. Numbers to call: 0302 216 541. Or send us a comment on 055-1111-997. The Africa Free Trade Continental Area is here. The Secretariat is going to be here in Ghana, 54 states in Africa. Bigger markets, bigger leverage, bigger financing. It affects everything. How is your business going to survive? And like we said a few minutes ago, it's not just about you deciding to go out. Because if you don't go out, someone else is coming in. The door is open. So you either innovate or you die, like we always say. So while we're waiting for the phone lines to ring, Richmond, I'm seeing as the market is going to expand, what should entrepreneurs do in handling the temptation of quantity over quality?
You don't have any options in this stage. You should be able to master both, depending on what is happening at what time. But first and foremost, quality, and then secondly, quantity. And for any of these, remember last week when we were talking about investor readiness, it is not a must do all by just one industry, one company, one organization. Leverage in partnership. Sometimes you don't even need to compete. You partner. And so if your concentration is just on quantity, you'll be surprised you miss out on everything, because it's quality that drives quantity. When people take the service or good and they're excited, then they say, give us multiples. So if you cannot sell out one for the other, but first and foremost, quality. Remember, you cannot dodge this system, this platform. You go through regulatory compliance tools. You go through protocols. So you cannot miss out even on quality. Other than that, you can't even qualify to
You won't be
be
able
on
to
the
qualify.
platform. Yes.
There is an interesting, you spoke about packaging and labeling, and there's an interesting advert I saw a couple of years ago. So it was just in pictures, no words. So there's a figure of a man who's lying down, obviously very exhausted. Then he ingests a certain product, and he's strengthened, and he stands up, and he's all over the place. Now this is done. The first picture you see on your left-hand side is a man who's down. The second picture is a man ingesting the product. The third picture is a man very active. And this was done in a local region. Now they ship this product abroad. And I'm talking about this because we're going to go abroad with our products, and we must understand the nuances. Unfortunately for them, destination country read right to left.
So it meant
So
something
imagine
else.
what the interpretation was.
You take
If
it
you're healthy
and you go
and you
down.
ingest the product, you'll go down.
Right.
Now, suffice it to say that the product didn't do well. Going into these new markets, how relevant is it for product owners and business owners to understand the nuances and the different culture, requirements of our target market? So that, for example, in this country, they drink a lot of tea because it comes from their culture. They eat a lot of cola because it comes from their culture. They prefer their cola not packaged because it comes from their culture. They prefer their wache in leaves because... What is the place for this in all of this process, in preparing yourself to be
The
ready?
place for this is simple. In the basic export readiness requirements, that is the buyer requirements. There's somebody who had a product labeled in his local language. He exported it in the same local language to China. In Chinese, that language meant something very bad. And so buyer requirements, check whatever you are producing here, check if it means the same. And that should affect your labeling, it should affect your branding, it should affect almost everything. So you are not just producing for yourself and your local market, you are producing for everyone. So that is the category under buyer requirements, and it's important to check that.
Okay, this one is from Ajiman Joseph. He says, good afternoon, great discussion. Please ask your guest for me if he can underline the difference between traditional export and non-traditional export. Sorry if he's touched on this already because I didn't start listening.
Right.
Good afternoon, Ajiman, and thank you for sending your comments.
So in this sense, traditional export basically have to do with the commodities or the goods here that are like we have competitive advantage in. So if we said basic traditional stuff, you can say cocoa, you can say maybe you can't say coffee is at the same level of cocoa. Non-traditional maybe some other kind of goods that we don't have competitive advantage in, but we can still produce. And so remember always, last week I said that a product like cocoa, Ghana and maybe Cote d'Ivoire may have an edge because I'm not sure you can find cocoa in the same quality, in the same sense, in the same size, maybe say in South Africa. And so then it becomes our traditional export. And then South Africa may have something else. Even gold could be. And so that is how you look at the two in its different contexts.
Right. Okay, I have a quick question here. Let's try and see if we can answer this. Which of these two will play or have prominence in this space of AfTA, which is Africa Free Trade Continental Area? Educational qualification or professional competence?
Well, I mean, in the world of business, it's more about professional competence. And it's easy to get professional competence with educational qualification, but it is not automatic to have educational qualification and have professional competence. So you see somebody have an MBA in finance, but he has not had any hands-on experience with any financial institution. So he has an educational qualification, but he doesn't have professional competence. Another may work throughout all his life after first degree. He has a professional competence, but he may not have maybe a second degree in finance.
Right. Next week, what are we looking forward to discussing?
So next week, now that you have done your checklist, and I wish all those watching us who have gone through this can be ready and say that, yes, when I look at the checklist, I pass or I don't, so that we can pick those who have passed, and we are going to look at the export strategy. So how do you put together your export strategy after you've crossed this level of checklisting if you are ready to export? So we'll tell you and guide you as to how to prepare yourself to lead and to beat competition out there.
I think I've got a few more seconds. There's a question that came in. This one is from Nana Sam. And I think it rehashes the point you made about clearing our business registration processes. His point is that it's difficult to go through the business registration process here in Ghana. And for this AfCFTA to work, it means that we need to take a second look at those processes. And I recall a few seconds ago you talking about the fact that it may even be possible for our regulatory bodies to benchmark the Secretariat to try and get this out. Let's just rehash on that just a little bit for those of our business
For the
owners who are
specific
listening.
case of business registration, my understanding is that it has improved quite considerably. And if you look at the index of the ease of doing business, I think Ghana is making some advances. Having said that, we are talking about competitiveness here. And just the same way we are advising our MSMEs to up their game, the regulatory bodies that look at standards, that look at registration, that looks at all that, shouldn't wait for us to be caught off guard, because that is part of the national strategy. Rwanda, South Africa, and co are making sure that their national strategy favors their businesses and the entrepreneurs. The way we can do ours would be to seamlessly make things like that easy to do, so that our MSMEs can easily get them done. I want to charge the Ghana Enterprises Agency before NBSSI that they should be a little bit more proactive in taking and leading this charge. So all businesses can use their about 118 offices and guide people to get through all these things.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful conversation. Next week, by all means, we have to continue this conversation because there's so much. Let me just ask this very quickly. Who's going to bank after?
I can't share that here.
But definitely,
but I think for now, I think the Afri-Exim Bank and then the AU are having a lot of conversations to make this happen. But I can't share. That is not something I can share.
And clearly, there's going to be opportunity in there for some of our local financial institutions to also be able to leverage the opportunities in AfCFTA.
It's up to them, actually. It's up to them. And proactivity, all these things we are talking about, is not just for small businesses. It's business and service in any area. And so if you're a bank, if you're a financial institution, don't think it doesn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with you. If you don't step out, somebody is coming for your market.
Somebody is coming for your market. I just wish that with all of this information that we're sharing, our business owners and entrepreneurs will take very good advantage of it and help our businesses to grow, because once our businesses grow, our economy will open up, and definitely we will have our Ghanaian businesses doing well. We don't want a situation where our business owners sit here and then people come from outside and take advantage of our market. Richmond, thank you so much. Next week, I'm pretty certain we're going to continue with this conversation. This has been Masterclass here on your Superstation Joy 99.7. Very wonderful thoughts shared here. My name is Yabanafo. As always, next week we come your way with yet another exciting edition of Masterclass. But for now, we continue with The Ignition with Sammy Forson. Thank you for listening, and see you at the same time next week.
Of